Who is Maxime Bernier? What is the People's Party of Canada? And why is it, despite the fact that their voters align on very similar issues, that their two leaders often clash and end up doing jabs at one another? Welcome to Orange Wave, the series where we discuss progressive news, culture, and all things related to the NDP. I am your host, Will Adams, and today we're going to talk about the People's Party of Canada, conservative voters, and why they tend to argue sometimes. Starting things off relatively straightforward, the People's Party of Canada, or PPC, was founded in September 2018 by Maxime Bernier, a former Conservative Party of Canada MP and leadership candidate. Bernier formed the party shortly after he lost the Conservative leadership race to Andrew Scheer, citing a lack of support for his libertarian ideals. The PPC is a right-wing populist party that advocates for so-called individual freedom, limited government, and for reducing immigration. The policies that he wants to propose include cutting foreign aid altogether, ending multiculturalism, and reducing the size and influence of the federal government. The party made its debut in the 2019 federal election, but failed to win any seats in the House of Commons. Despite this setback, the PPC ended up tripling their vote in the 2021 election, and although not being able to get any seats there either, they still ended up getting a big following. They continue to grow in popularity and influence, particularly among those who feel disenfranchised by the Conservative Party. Now, I'd love to immediately get into Pierre Poilievre and Maxime Bernier and their voters' pissing matches as of late, but I need to elaborate further before I can do so. But don't worry, we will get to that. In order to understand the really weird discourse going on right now, you need to understand what the PPC actually stands for, what they're pushing to voters, and what ideas they're actually proposing to Canadians right now. The PPC was founded in 2018, and their first election was in 2019, but their name really got out there in the 2021 election, when Erin O'Toole was the leader of the Conservative Party.
I know some of you may be hesitant because of things you may have heard, or impressions that are a little out of date. I know that you may not hear all that much from politicians, including conservative ones. As I've said, I'm a pro-choice member of Parliament, was elected leader of the Conservatives in that fashion. I will always defend the rights of all Canadians and focus on their prosperity. That is my relentless focus. I want you to know that I have been and will continue to be an ally. You have my commitment to be there with you, standing up against homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. Discrimination and intolerance against the LGBTQ community is unacceptable and has no place in Canada.
So, in my personal opinion, Erin had some promising policy proposals during the 2021 federal election, ones I really liked. He advocated for expanding access to mental health services, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which is kind of a first for the party, and improving childcare affordability. However, despite these progressive and very well thought out ideas, O'Toole definitely struggled to win over some traditional conservative voters who felt that his policies were, quote, too liberal. This tension between progressive values and conservative policy isn't new. Some members of the Conservative Party felt that O'Toole was moving too far away from the party's roots by promoting policies they saw as too left-leaning. As a result, some voters turned away from O'Toole altogether and instead supported other parties that aligned more closely with their values. And we can see that with the PPC as their votes tripled in the 2021 election. The balance between appealing to new voters with new policies and not alienating your old base, as this situation proves, it's a very delicate balance that you have to strike. And ultimately, the success of any political leader will depend on their ability to communicate their policies effectively and build consensus among their supporters. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, why would there be discourse between party voters if their parties align on very similar issues? You don't see Liberal Party voters and NDP voters going at each other like this. However, with PPC and CPC voters, you in fact do see it a lot. So I bet you're curious as to why that is. the reason is not actually as deep as I thought it was. After doing some research, I found out that the two party leaders, Maxime Bernier and Pierre Poilievre respectively, seem to be trying to steal each other's thunder in the press. And yeah, they definitely are. And they're acting very childish about it too, and you'd be mind blown to find that these are men over the age of 40. This comes from Maxime Bernier's YouTube channel.
The same way I denounced Maxime Bernier for attending the World Economic Forum. I think Maxime really has to come clean on why he attended the World Economic Forum, why he was involved in that, why he proposed free trade with communist China, why he said that he admires the freedoms that exist in communist China, and I would denounce him for making those comments as well.
Pierre accuses me of attending the World Economic Forum. I have explained this multiple times. The videos are out there. Is Pierre Poilievre seriously trying to imply that I'm a globalist for a trip to Davos I did 15 years ago while serving his corrupt party? Really? How about you come clean about the globalist policies you are promoting right now? Pierre needs to explain why he promotes globalist policies like unrestricted mass immigration and why he supports the Paris Climate Accord. Both of these policies are crucial pieces of the United Nations globalist agenda. He may not have been to the left, but he pushes the exact same anti-Canadian policies. As for my past comments on free trade with China, that was something I said in 2016 during my conservative leadership campaign. I discarded that policy long ago. Since I founded the PPC, we have always taken a hardline stance against China. Pierre is too scared of being labeled a racist to offer any real opposition. He won't even say the words Chinese Communist Party. Maybe if Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, and the rest of the political establishment were not so focused on fighting unnecessary foreign wars in Ukraine, they could take real threats like Communist China more seriously. Pierre, if you want to know my ideas, you can easily find them on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca/platform. Unlike the Conservative Party, we are not afraid to show off our policies.
I think this right here might be a big chunk of the reason why they're at odds with each other right now. And I just kind of find it ridiculous. Calling Maxime Bernier a globalist is ridiculous, but calling Pierre Poilievre a globalist is also ridiculous because you really have to be grasping at straws to say either of those things. Maxime Bernier did attend the World Economic Forum, but pretty much every federal party leader has attended it at least once because that has something to do with the political establishment. On the same front, however, the Conservative Party of Canada does not support any globalist initiatives. I'd probably be more inclined to support them if they did because I believe in that sort of thing. I have never heard Pierre Poilievre give any vocal support for the Paris Climate Accord, or Agenda 2030, or the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know how anyone came to the conclusion that the Conservative Party of Canada is globalist, but I actually just found out about this on social media recently when I was browsing Twitter one morning. I saw a bunch of anti-CPC memes coming from pro-People's Party voters where they were saying that the Conservative Party is just another globalist party. And I think this is a part of the reason why. Their two party leaders are just attacking one another vocally on the public stage because Pierre Poilievre is upset that he lost the PPC vote years before. I mean, these are the kind of people who, if the PPC didn't exist, they'd probably be voting for Pierre. But they don't trust Pierre because he won't vocally give his support for Trumpism-type policies. PPC voters are also kind of upset with conservative voters because they feel that they should just vote for Pierre Poilievre anyways, and they don't feel like a party owes them a vote. And although I don't agree with the PPC, I do agree that no party is owed a vote from anyone. You vote for the party that you support the most. and implying that you should just vote for someone just to get rid of a politician and not vote for someone you actually like, that's a very stupid thing to say. Bernier is running in the Portridge-Lisgar by-election because of the fact that Candice Bergen resigned. The CPC candidate for Portridge right now is a man named Brian Leslie, I think it was. And Maxime Bernier has been getting his supporters riled up to vote for him in Portridge because I guess Brandon isn't making his policy known. You kind of got to expect that because Brandon is kind of new to this. His Twitter account was only created this year. I doubt he's had a history in politics before this. I've literally never heard of him before, like a few weeks ago. Maxime Bernier is running in Portridge, and I don't know how to feel about that because I did a background check on him. He doesn't live in Portridge, and assuming he actually gets that seat, that means he'd be the only federal party leader, with the exception of Justin Trudeau, who doesn't live in the riding that they serve. You know, Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, Yves-François Blanchet, Elizabeth May, they all live in the ridings that they serve. Maxime Bernier wants to run in an area that he doesn't live in. He wants to run in an area that he's never... I'm not going to say never been to because he's clearly been there before if he wants to run there, but he just don't believe that he should be running in an area he doesn't actually live in because it proves that he might not be able to meet the requirements that Portridge actually has for an MP. Like, when you grow up in an area, or maybe live there for just a couple of years, you understand what that community needs. Maxime Bernier running in an area he doesn't live in could make him an out-of-touch MP who doesn't actually bring results to Portridge. Of course, though, I don't know if that's Maxime Bernier's intention. I think he's just trying to get a seat. Now, do I think that Portridge is going to be taken by the PPC? I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. But it's definitely either going to be Leslie or Bernier who gets that seat. Because Lisgar seems to be a socially conservative area to a small degree. That's why Candice was sat there for so long. If there's one thing for certain, though, it's that Leslie isn't exactly making his policy known. His whole platform right now, from what I've seen, is just, I'm a Poilievre conservative. You should vote for me because of that. And regardless of who you're serving, that's not a great campaign. It doesn't actually tell people that you're a great MP for their area. It just says, I associate with these people, so you should vote for me in spite of that, even though my policy could be fucking shit. Bernier is not a responsible leader himself. He, as a conservative MP, stole documents and actually left them at his girlfriend's house at the time, who could have easily read this classified information. I don't know if someone like that is responsible enough to run a country, let alone an area to begin with. With the PPC doubling down on a bunch of things like their anti-LGBT rhetoric, they will likely end up cracking Pierre Poilievre's testicles and make it so that way Pierre has to explicitly say one way or another where he stands on these issues. And if their most recent anti-Indigenous, anti-LGBT ad is an indication of anything, it's that it's just going to be a bigoted pissing match if Bernier gets in. But again, we will have to wait and see what happens.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Orange Wave. I am your host, Will Adams. I hope you have an amazing day, and remember, Jagmeet Singh loves you.